and welcome everyone. My name is Idris Zakaria. I am your host. Today we are going to talk about the global pandemic, coronavirus or COVID-19, and its impact on the international trade and supply chains. Our guest today is Mr. Arasu. Mr. Arasu is an Indian businessman and investor. Mr. Arasu, welcome, and nice to see you again. Could you tell me the impact of this pandemic on the international arena and how it impacts the supply chains?
Um, Thank you, Idris. Thank you for having me in this program today. And it's always a great pleasure talking to you. And this is a very important topic that you have chosen for this interview. This is a pandemic that none of our generation has ever experienced something like this before. So the impact of something like this is going to be really huge, and it's still an evolving situation. I mean, there is no clear solution at sight, but people are working on it, as you know. Um, the way I look at it, a lot of things are going to change forever. One of those things is like this work from home, and it's a new dynamic, especially the way the COVID vaccine has been developed. A lot of scientists, researchers have been working across the globe, the entire supply chain. I mean, from scientists to the researchers, the labs, everybody is working remotely, across time differences. But still, they managed to put together something that's reasonably successful, and now is on the market. And people have started vaccinating, and the frontline workers are already getting the shots. So this is a great thing. I mean, a lot of times what you see, a new technology or new, a revolution takes some time for it to become successful. But this is a forced story, right? There's no much time. We needed something very short, very quick, and very effective. So the future is going to be almost the same. I mean, we need to rethink the strategies across the spectrum. It could be the way governments are functioning. It could be the way industries are functioning, education, colleges, schools, pharmaceutical industry. Day to day, a lot of things are going to change. The sooner, the faster we evolve and adapt to this new way of life, I think things are going to get better.
But my question here is because everybody has been saying that China. Do you think that really China can play a better role in this pandemic to improve the economic situation globally?
That's a good question. Yeah? See, I don't think let's not get into the things which we don't really know about. But what we really know about is there's no way that anybody can do anything without involving China at this moment. That's how I look at it. This is putting Africa into perspective, putting Dubai into perspective. And if you look at it, the Chinese have invested so much in this continent. I mean, they have significantly contributed to the development of infrastructure, the way the governments are functioning and people are empowered. So you cannot downplay that, right? So especially the way they're looking at distribution of vaccines in Africa using Addis Ababa as the hub. I mean, I'm sure Africa is going to get the coverage much faster than the other countries. I know the way the Chinese can execute things. I mean, in terms of rolling out. I mean, the way they build the hospital. We all saw that, right? I mean, it's huge feat.
I think it was just within 2 weeks, huh?
Let it be 2 weeks or 2 months. I mean, no one in the world it was first of all difficult to comprehend, and by the time people started believing the story, the hospital is already done, up and running. So they have the machinery to just achieve the unthinkable. So the future, I mean, as long as they try to globalize their standards and increase their performance thresholds. I mean, it's difficult to catch up with them. I mean, so from what I understand, even like the Dubai, from what I understand from the news, some of the majors like Sinopharm are involved in the production of the final levels of bringing the vaccine to Emirates. They could be one of the first countries have the whole nation, residents, citizens, everybody vaccinated. I know Dubai is one place. I mean, the Emirates, not just Dubai. I mean, the United Arab Emirates. It's just like they have the same spirit like China. If they decide to roll out, there's nobody who can compete with them. So I mean, putting your question again, China is definitely the way forward. The economy is doing well, and I think they are coming back from the slowdown, and things are just coming back to normal.
But there's a question that I think everybody has been asking now about the vaccine. Why did it take too long?
What is too long?
I mean, to get the vaccine.
This is not too long. This is too short. Normally, it takes. There's the invention part of it. There is a lot of permutations, combination. I mean, first of all, this is something a completely unknown virus. And they share the genome sequence, with all these researchers around the world for them to find something. It's not something that's going to stay static. They say, it's changing, and it's mutating, it's changing the structure, and what could be? We are talking about COVID-19. What about COVID 19.1, 19.2? I mean, 20, 21. You don't know, right? So there's no one human being, just homogeneous. Like everybody else is having the same type of body functions or whatever. So they need to invent something that's genetically usable across the world in different populations. So that's why I would think this is absolutely fast track. It's not long, it's short. Considering the challenges, nobody could travel, nobody could meet, and but still they try to collaborate in such a manner, across time differences, continents, different universities from the east and the west working together, all behind the scenes. But the ultimate beneficiaries are the public, right? So I think they did a very good job. Considering there has to be significant amount of testing before they roll it out to the general public. But considering we are in a global pandemic situation, and the world has never seen such a thing before, at least in our times. And we don't have much time to lose also, because the way we are seeing the hospitals getting full. We saw in California. There's ICUs are full, hospitals are full, and this is just the aftermath of the Thanksgiving. And you're going to have Christmas now. And these are not small countries. These are the most powerful, advanced economies in the world, struggling to cope up with this virus. So the faster something comes and there's an intervention successfully to just first stop it from further spreading and creating more havoc. So I think they did a very good job. Thanks to the scientists.
Well, Mr. Anderson, some people say that the global economy is going to take another 10 years to recover. What is your take on that?
See, global economy, 10 years is a long shot, I would think. Of course, there would be some slowdown, and there will be some repercussions, if you will. You can just go back in time, during the 9/11, 2001, if I'm right. And when 9/11 happened, all the flights had to be grounded, and that really dented the airline industry for a long time. See, airlines is one industry, just like it doesn't just involve the airlines. There's a lot of other ancillary industries, tourism, travel, hotels, and so many jobs are impacted. That was just one event. Now we're looking at a global pandemic. Everything under the sun has been impacted. Imagine the restaurants, Nobody can go sit and eat. Imagine the malls. People just go for shopping. Imagine your cabs, because of the social distancing and all these things. This there are different type of problems. There's not one common denominator. There's a different type of problem probably in America, different impact, a different impact in China, a different impact like in India, Indonesia. But the most important factor is like it will take time to spring back, definitely for sure.
Absolutely.
But I don't think it's going to be like so long, because these are big economies, I mean, very big populations, and there will be a slowdown for sure. But I'm sure the governments can like bring in some liquidity, support the small business, and extend the moratoriums so people can just come back to life and continue with their regular thing what they do. I mean, look at the impact on shipping, look at the impact on food processing industry, and all these are going to be long-term impacts. I mean, on one side, this has increased the awareness of how an industry should be, like the standards of industry should be maintained even for the future.
As you just mentioned, the shipping. When it comes to international logistics, I mean, how does it work now during the COVID pandemic?
It's very simple. The world's biggest importer, for example, like sesame seeds. Sesame seeds, I mean, I think about 1 million tons are being moved from just Africa to China. And when this pandemic started about December, January, and just peaked from February onwards, that's typically when they have the Chinese New Year. That's the most significant part of the whole economic thing. I mean, people shop, travel, so many things happen. I mean, restaurants, eating out. So now, when these are the projected economic things to happen, the pandemic hits China, and the government just shuts everything down. You can imagine the impact, the collateral damage, and the consequences of that. Finally, you end up in a container, and containers belong to the vessel, so the vessels will be impacted, right? Imagine the cruise ships. Every cruise ship was docked with no passenger, just nobody can travel, right? So what could you do with a cruise ship? You can't do nothing, right? Imagine the expense of just maintaining a cruise ship with no cruise, no passenger. Same thing applies to the container trades, vessel trades. And then because you know what happened to the oil, people were ready to pay for storing the oil. It went to zero.
Yeah.
And so these are things you never imagine in your lifetime. But now, in India right now, we are paying maybe $1.20 or something for a liter of petrol, So I think we are back to where we were. I mean, of course, there will be a slowdown. This is like a speed breaker. Just stop, think, and move. Because the world is never going to be the same place again.
Absolutely.
That's what I think this pandemic has taught many people. People who just put in too much cost upfront are definitely going to suffer big losses. Just the running costs, just if they're dependent on on a bank, and bank is dependent on the customers to pay back, so there's always a bubble.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Last question, Mr. Arasu. 2021 is almost like 2 weeks.
Yes,
or 3 weeks to be there.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic?
Of course. Do we have a choice? I'm always optimistic, but you should be cautiously optimistic. I mean, this is something my guru from my business school days. There's something to be cautiously optimistic against being recklessly pessimistic.
That's true.
So I believe, as an entrepreneur, we always try to be cautiously optimistic, look for opportunities, and but of course, like I said, we need to rethink about the maneuvering, our risk assessment and thresholds never going to be the same. You're looking at like billion-dollar companies, 100 chains, stores in Manhattan going out of business. So this is not usual. This is not at all usual. In India, a lot of banks are getting merged, new structuring, joint ventures. So the whole order of the world in terms of trade is going to have a completely different a year ahead and probably a decade ahead. And I think China has huge role to play. Africa is going to play a huge role. Of course, India, China, Indonesia, subcontinent, Pakistan, Bangladesh, big population. They're going to drive the economy big time. We are seeing a lot of innovation happening in America. So health is going to take the forefront, and I think people are moving towards leaders who care about the society, environment, health for all, consider all people are equal. So not just either you or me first.
That's right.
So I mean, a good friend of mine who's also a neurologist, he's a neurosurgeon. He always tells me, you're as healthy as the poorest guy living on the street. So there's no big or small, there's no rich or poor when it comes to the health story. Somebody's there coughs and gives you a great gift. That's as good as done, right?
Yeah.
So it's our duty, the governments and across the world. I mean, I think the World Health Organization is doing a commendable job. I mean, a lot of governments are pulling all the resources and foundations, everybody. Otherwise, the vaccine would have been not possible, so fast. So when all these stories will come out eventually, but we need to respect all the good work done by all the scientists together. So it's time for the world to put science first and keep the rhetoric behind. So look at the people first.
Yes, sir.
Everything else can wait.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Arasu, for joining us today, and I hope to see you again.
Thank you, Idris. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I hope we can do things in the future as well.
You're welcome. I also want to thank you all, our viewers all over the world. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm looking forward to see you for the next episode. Today we discussed about the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on the international or global economy, and how 2021 is going to look like. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Thank you.